Hi, I'm Bowling Otter.
And I'm Lucy Sandwich.
And welcome to
The BS on the Internet.
Well, it's been another one of those weeks.
Oh my God, has it?
There's so many things to talk about.
This week went, I don't know about you guys, but it went like really fast for me.
Yes.
Because the news was so nuts.
Yeah.
And it was so like, it was really insane. It was like a really crazy week. Sometimes some weeks, maybe because the election's coming up, things are kind of ramping up a little bit.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I just feel like everybody went nuts this week. Like it was crazy. There's so much to talk about. But first off, we have to thank you guys for being so awesome when we were talking about everything that happened with Toddler Outer last week. So many of you left comments and sent us tweets and all kinds of things about how you had similar experiences growing up and how
you guys
you
have some
thought
crazy
we
stories.
were doing. Yeah.
I was
my
like,
gosh. There was
made me feel way better.
the next day, he's like on his phone and he's going like, oh, and I was like,
oh
what's
my
with
God.
this face?
Oh
He
my
goes, you
God.
should see some of these comments. I was like, oh gosh.
Some brutal stuff.
But it was so nice of you guys to say that, you thought we were doing the right thing, or if, we handled it okay, because there's only so much you can do. But oh my gosh, was it crazy. But he's fine now.
Yeah, he's good.
He's got a little black eye.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute.
Even that by now is healing up a bit, though.
Yeah.
Because it's been officially a week now.
Yeah, it has.
So it's cleared up. He had a pretty good black eye for several days, and now there's only a little bit of the bruise left. It looks like the scar is going to be tiny and really clean. So
all
he's
told,
all
it's
good.
kind of okay.
Yeah, he's good.
The steri strips came off within a couple of days.
Yeah.
They came off in his sleep, and it didn't bleed or anything. There were a couple of times where I think he may have remembered the whole thing and just started
has
crying.
some weird
Unexplained bouts of crying.
Yes, out of nowhere. Like he'll be like great, and then all of a sudden he'll just start like
going like, and
and then
start
goes
crying.
into full on crying tears.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
And then he's over it.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, what was that? So I don't know what that was about.
Sad? What happened? And
I don't know if I had anything to do with it or not, but that's been an interesting thing.
Yeah, from what I'm reading, they could have like something could remind him or whatever of it. I don't know.
A week or something.
I don't know.
That, right? Yeah.
It depends on how long he thinks about it or he remembers it, or he has pain. If he has any pain there, he's got a constant reminder of it for a while.
It's true.
But he's fine. He's back to his normal self and whatnot. But oh my God, that whole situation just gave me like such a fright. And we talked about it for so long last week, but it was like so fresh in our minds and we were so like buzzed, But he's good, and thank you for being so nice.
Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, guys, well, last week we talked about the story that came out that said that people were working 100-hour weeks to finish Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
And that was followed up by apparently some testimonials from existing Rockstar employees who said that, I didn't experience any of that, and overtime was never mandatory. It was always voluntary, and you got paid for it, and, I never experienced anything like this. So I think, okay, well, I don't know if this is just a PR thing or if it really was overblown. And then Kotaku actually decided to go investigate this after all this had happened.
Massive way.
Massive,
Look
long
at
ass,
this.
massive article. But it's a really good article. It's you're about halfway
I
through
didn't
right
read
now.
it. Yeah, I see that.
This is very long. I read about half of it, guys. I didn't get through the whole thing, to be honest, but I got about halfway through. I mean, there's a lot here. But it's very interesting stuff if you have the time to read it. But it does talk about, there's people that spoke anonymously from work that are working at Rockstar. And a lot of people from before.
There you go.
Very different stories. And it almost seems like very different stories from different departments. Not everybody was subject to the same thing.
I'm sure, yeah.
But it goes, so there's definitely people that said, maybe they didn't, one of the quotes in here is saying maybe no one worked 100-hour weeks, but they definitely told us 80. A lot of people said that working 60 to 80-hour weeks was not uncommon. People had to do it for years straight. So we're not even talking crunch.
Yeah.
This is just like a solid, continuous level of work, and that they were always encouraged to come in on the weekends sometimes. There was a period of time I saw in one particular office where they catered dinner every day for a year. And if you went a couple weeks without staying till dinner, you kind of got shamed a little bit.
See,
and
that kind of thing,
But the thing is, the article goes into this interesting level with it, because it's almost like it's not a company practice, it's become a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Like the peers are forcing it basically. Like they're coming in and doing the work, and then everybody else is expected to come and do the work. There definitely are stories of management and higher ups putting pressure on to come in, and that there's like a culture of fear. Like they're always afraid of losing their job or afraid of getting yelled at.
You know what I'm
like
wondering if some of it is, and I've been in this situation a couple times, maybe some of you know what I'm talking about, where if you're around, like say you're a game developer, right? And you're hired onto a job or on a project where everybody around you is really, really good. And you kind of elevate yourself.
Yep.
And everybody just brings each other up and you make this amazing product, but you wind up working so much harder than you normally would, but it makes you better. So I'm wondering if that kind of elevation, kind of, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, if that kind of thing would result in that kind of an outcome.
Yeah.
Just to have everybody say, well, this guy, he's really good. And, I feel like there's like a competition there a little bit. Like you said, there's probably this fear or this pressure that like, if I leave, I'm going to look really bad. So I got to stay here. So when everybody's thinking the same thing, and then you're just kind of stuck. So I wonder if there's something as easy as maybe a higher up saying like, guys, like, you got to have a life. You got to go home. You got to sleep. You got to spend time with your family. Could it be solved by that, or would that? No. In fact,
part of what this gets
alleviated?
of what this gets at is that these people that have talked about it, I've seen it. One of the quotes was that they realize they're not just doing a job; they're making art. Okay, and that is a whole different thing when you think of it like that. Like if I think about like when I'm making music, I am not like I could go wherever, till whenever, doing whatever, because I just want to get this done, and it's like my heart's in it, and it's just a different kind of thing. So the conversation turns to, and I know that later on in the article it gets more. This just starts talking about games like Witcher 3 and everything. Is it possible for like this industry to not exist with that kind of crunch culture? It's difficult because there's a lot of people that have said they were working crazy hours, also freely admitted that working on it was one of the most rewarding things they've ever done in their lives.
I bet,
and that they're working on it, they're realizing like that nobody's ever played anything like this. This is incredible. So every single person that they were talking about said would still go back and do it again. So, but it's still, they also did feel like the culture of fear actually came from management. There were people that they were getting like yelled at, they were getting pressured into doing stuff. So, and like the guys, the head guys would be in, the Hauser brothers would be in town, so that everybody would be like, oh, we got to come in on Saturday, even though I got nothing to do, just got to walk around and look like I'm doing something, because they definitely wanted people to be in the office all the time. So they didn't allow any remote work. You had to be in, and you had to stay in, you had to stay for dinner, you had to come on a weekend sometimes. So it's definitely crazy. But there's another interesting thing that I read, which I really don't know how I feel about.
Oh boy.
Actually, I'm pretty sure I know how I feel about. They have a policy, which the head of publishing confirmed, that if you leave Rockstar during the development of the game, if you're not there, if you're not present when the game is released and finished, you don't get in the credits. They do not put you in the credits. You could be there working for years on something, but if you're not in the company when the game is finished, you don't get in the credits. And it's freely admitted that was their policy.
That's messed up.
That's pretty crappy. That's pretty crappy.
Like, what if you get sick?
Yeah.
Or something like that. You have to you go on leave or something like that.
Who knows? Get an injury or something. I don't know. I don't know, but that is definitely like
petty.
It's petty. That is petty. That's very petty.
Really petty.
And I guess in response to this, apparently they have like a thing on their website now that like thanks all the other people that worked on the game before it came out. But this is the first time they've ever done that. So it sounds more like a PR thing that they're like, they asked a question about this. Doesn't look very good. Let's put something up on the website real quick.
That's really crappy.
I don't know. It's
like, what could that?
I know.
What does that accomplish other than being like, you went here to the end?
It does seem super petty. The whole thing seems petty. Everything about it seems petty. But it seems like bad business practice. It seems like bad leadership. But at the same time, when you strip all that away, I still don't know if it would be different. Yeah. Because you still have people who are experts and extremely talented at the work they do.
Making an amazing product.
Making art.
Yeah.
So it's like they're going to pour everything into it. And like it's tough. And then reflects poorly on the people who have families or something that can't pour as much into it, even though they're just as talented. But they can't do that, and it makes them look inferior.
Yeah.
So then there's that pressure to keep up.
Well, there's also, I mean, if you think about historically speaking, there have been people like this. Like, you're thinking of like Michelangelo and Mozart, who their lives were overcome with it, and it affected them. Like, some people died for their art because they were consumed by it. So maybe this is a more modern interpretation of that idea or that level of commitment. And some people thrive in that space. Some people create really well in that space, and it works for them and are fine with living like that. You know, a lot of people aren't. A lot of people want to go home. A lot of people want to chill and watch Netflix and play some video games and relax. But some people are workhorses.
And the thing is that if you're in a company like this, generally you're trying to, you want to be an artist. You want to, you know, you believe in development of video games. You believe in the artistic side of video games because you're a game like this. You're clearly participating in one of the greatest examples of that so far, as the word is out. It seems to be. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like it could work any.
I know.
It's you talk about music and and stuff like that. And Joe the Mutt's, like, somebody here said that it 100% affected their relationships and their friends, and they still wouldn't go back and do it differently. You know, so it's
those are the types of people that thrive in that space, and they're okay with that.
And the people said they were driven nuts and that it was really stressful and really crazy. But the other time it said if they didn't want that, they would not work in game development. So I don't know. I would love to. I hope they can find a way to reach out to some developer. Maybe there's some major developer or somebody that's worked on some great games that did not have this culture. I would love to hear about that. I'd love to see, like, how did you pull it off? What is it like in there? Do you really keep it like to 40, 45, 50 hour weeks? And it doesn't get crazier than that?
I have heard of and not in art, but in other businesses, I have heard of a lot of people using a philosophy of like the work hard, play hard, where they work really, really hard and grind on a project, and then management will take them all like to Vegas or on an amazing trip, and they all just party and relax like really, really hard.
Or take a long time off.
Take a long time off. So that, I feel like I'd be okay with that. And I feel like that's better. So sometimes I think that kind of thing would work. I feel like there's a lot of options, but if you have a group of people that are all right, working in that kind of space and that kind of self-sacrifice and putting so much of themselves into their art, you know, like now I'm thinking about all kinds of other people who did this, like Van Gogh cut his ear off. You know what I mean? Like, some people, I mean, granted that wasn't for his art, but but some people have that kind of intensity and passion that they're willing to, that they just feel really, really hard. So I don't know. If they want to be there, hey.
But there's some interesting things even about the technical side of game development too. They said that there's one point where they had this town, the main town of Red Dead Redemption was named something specific. I forget what it was. It's in the article. And another game came out, I think it was a new Mafia game, that used the same name. So they had to go change that name of the town, which meant they had to bring people to do all the voice acting all over again every time they mentioned it. They had to redo all the art assets, you know? So it's like that small little adjustment that they had to do that meant tons of people had to come back and work extra hours to go meet a deadline that didn't even exist yesterday. And there's a lot of other people that they had to wait for the graphics to be finished before the audio can get started. So those people just hanging out waiting for that to be done. So then they go nuts trying to get their stuff ready because they're stalling the project. So it's tough. You know, the work hard, play hard thing. This game's been in development since 2011. Dude. You know, and solid. It's like there's not even a chance to take any time off. It's a crazy industry. I don't know. It seems nuts. It seems you've got to be really, really hardcore about the stuff you want to work in it. But I would encourage you guys to read the article linked in the description. If you have a spare 5 years. If you have a spare 5 years and you're interested in this sort of thing, it's really interesting.
Let us know. Okay, now bear with me for a minute. I know we talked about Gritty before, but some of you introduced this to me. Now, I'm ashamed, being from Philly, that we didn't see this. But they were voting on a resolution in Philly this week on whether or not to welcome Gritty. Well, explain what Gritty is first, if you don't know what we're talking about.
Well, Gritty is the new, I mean, if you're on the internet, it's kind of been everywhere for a little bit. I think the wave has passed, but Gritty is the new Philadelphia Flyers mascot, the Philadelphia Flyers being the Philadelphia NHL hockey team. And they have a new I love this dude.
I hate him.
I'm all about this guy. I think he's pretty great. I think he looks a little crazy, and he's got to look a little crazy. He's got to just be a bit off the wall for him to fit with the culture of the Flyers, you know? And like, he's supposed to just be like, you know, his dad played hockey or something like that, and he just is like this goon. He's a hockey goon.
I know. I get it.
It's got to be this way.
But Philly voted on a resolution on whether or not to formally welcome him.
City
the
Philadelphia,
council,
yeah.
And it didn't pass unanimously.
It
did pass.
Yeah,
but look at this clip. So this is them voting on the resolution welcoming Gritty. All right, so look at this.
Moving probably second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. That
one dude.
Councilman, clarify. All right.
He ugly.
He ugly. You see what I mean? Thank you. See, I think that is a good enough reason.
He's got to be cute and cuddly for you.
I don't know. I think they were trying to make the hockey Philly fanatic.
Yeah,
which you can't.
They were.
Philly fanatic.
Yeah,
I do love the Philly fanatic.
Yeah,
but if I didn't grow up with the Philly fanatic, I might be like, "What is that?"
Oh, Philly fanatic.
If you don't know what we're talking about, okay. So here's the Philly fanatic. This is what he looks like. He's got a little tongue. He moves his belly around like this, and he messes with people. He's really funny.
Yeah, he's really
good
funny. I loved him when I was little.
Yeah,
I had a tape.
Amazing.
I had a VHS tape.
You did?
Philly Fanatic Follies. That's
really?
what it was. Yep. I watched it so many times.
Oh my gosh, he's so funny. And I think that's what they were trying to do. I think that they were trying to make like a lovable Philly Fanatic type Gritty thing.
I think they were too.
That is not it.
I freaking love it. But he had to be crazier than Philly Fanatic. He had to be
ugly.
a little nuts.
He ugly.
He had to be a little nuts. He needed the googly eyes to go all the different directions. He needed to be a little nuts. He's kind of like Philly Fanatic meets Cookie Monster.
Don't mess my Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster's fantastic. That's what I'm saying.
I have
that's my point.
Cookie Monster.
You take Cookie Monster, you add a Philly Fanatic. It's a pretty good combo.
He does kind of look like Cookie Monster.
Yeah, he's kind of great. I kind of like him. If you put a beard on Cookie Monster and turn him red, that's him. That's him.
Okay, I saw this week and was fascinated by it. So with all of these driverless cars going around, there has been a lot of discussion over prioritization on people in accidents. Should you prioritize old people over young people, cats over dogs, that kind of thing? So the title of this article is Driverless Cars Should Spare Young People Over Old in Unavoidable Accidents, Massive Survey Finds. So the Moral Machine Experiment, which I didn't know was going on, anybody can participate in this, survey of more than 2 million people from 233 countries, preferred to save humans over animals, young over old, and more people over fewer. Although it did change with each culture. For example, they said people living in Latin American countries preferred saving young people over older people, while the opposite was true for respondents from Asian countries. Most people, however, would rather spare pedestrians over passengers, as well as lawful people over jaywalkers. And they really, really broke it down, like, would you hit a boy or a girl, somebody who was pregnant, male doctor, female athlete? Like, I don't know how.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this information. Will they have the car prioritized? Well, first off, I'm sure this would be a very, very unlikely scenario. You know, that you'd be driving and it would be driving, you would encounter an unavoidable accident and you would have to choose between like a cat or a lady pushing a stroller, you know, and then you'd think, all right, we'll go for the cat. You know, I know it sounds terrible, but I wonder if they're going to like make them different for the Asian countries as opposed to the Latin countries, you know, that kind of thing. Like if, according to where the survey lines up.
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure how you would even go about making a car do this. I mean, this is an interesting survey.
Yeah.
But how do you tell a car to tell the difference between a stroller or a girl or a boy or a pregnant person or like how do you or an executive, like a homeless person even? How do you tell a car to tell the difference?
I don't know.
Between those things. So I don't know if this even comes, I mean, I don't understand how this is, it's really interesting as far as a practice of morality and how it differs from in different regions, but how it specifically affects driverless cars.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure.
I could see the more like down you get in like the nitty gritty of it. Like if you see like over here, like a pedestrian and a cyclist.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, which one do you hit?
Yeah.
Choose to hit.
Yeah.
Or like, I remember way back when this first started out, they were saying that if it had a choice, if it was going to hit somebody or like what would it do, and it would swerve into a wall. I think try to find I think that's how they solved that problem, was to find something solid and crash itself. Like it doesn't prioritize, the car doesn't prioritize itself, the car will crash itself.
Yeah.
So that seemed to make everybody kind of okay, you know, but it may hurt you as a passenger.
Yeah.
You know, but then it's like, well, do you prioritize the passenger over a pedestrian or whatever? But I'm sure it could differentiate, you know, like a cyclist or a pedestrian.
Yeah.
Man, woman, maybe. You know, races, maybe.
I don't know if you
know?
can do man, woman.
I don't know.
It's or
I don't know.
it's
homeless or male executive.
Yeah,
that's a little bit more like.
Yeah, the way it's broken down, I'm kind of like, I mean, there are definitely some broad strokes that can be made, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's still a really interesting outcome. But, you know, who knows where the whole, I mean, because AI is going to be so important in driverless cars.
Do you think young or old?
I would prefer young. I would.
To hit the young person or
No,
save the young person or
person.
save
I would
the old
prioritize young over
Yeah.
old. I mean, it's probably just our culture.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the whole idea. It's like you have a whole life ahead of you, you know, that kind of thing.
I know.
But I mean, if I had a kid next to me or something like that, I would definitely like think I should be hit instead of a small
of
child.
course. Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
for sure.
I kind of just apply it the same way.
Ooh.
Oh no.
I know, but there's a whole like quiz with this kind of stuff. It's about an hour and a half long. I think we should take it and do a video on it.
Yeah, that could
That'd
be interesting.
Would you guys want to see
be
that?
really interesting.
Because I'd be curious to look at it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think
I'd like to know where I would go with it.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that we'd be on the same page with
Probably.
what to do.
Probably.
So yeah, I don't.
Maybe. I think
know.
it's maybe if there's enough different scenarios, we got to disagree on something, right?
But I like the idea
It'll
that
be cats. Let's
they
prioritize
have-
cats over everything.
No, maybe. But I like the idea that they went to like a massive survey type thing for this kind of moral problem.
Yeah.
Because like, can you imagine if just like a bunch of business executives made this decision and then people would be like, what? You know?
Well, yeah,
so
but it's-
you
I'm
could be
still-
like, hey, we asked.
Still wondering where the actual decision is happening and where, like, how is that like it's like, oh, here's the part in the software we decide whether it hit old people or young people. Like, is that how it's going to work?
Are we there?
Yeah,
even?
like,
Yeah.
I don't even know. So I'm curious how this would even come out in practice.
I know. Okay, it's time for the subreddit of the week. What do you mean, oh?
I just looked at which one it is.
Oh,
I'm
I know.
kind of worried about this one.
Scared-less.
Scared
so
poopless.
I said that as the weeks would go on, these would get scarier and scarier and scarier. So I, for my own sanity and for your own sanity, I am not going to click on any of these in the episode, although I did before we did this, and it's horrible. And it says a lot of these are not safe for work.
Yeah.
Some of them are kind of like goofy, like house sitting for a friend, nearly shat myself when I walked down the hall. You know,
That's
like,
not safe for work, though?
No,
That's
yeah.
like, kind of like,
I
how's that
think
not
they've
safe for
marked
work?
a lot of them not safe for work.
Yeah, it looks like they're all not safe for work.
Some of them, like,
I think the whole subreddit is.
Yeah, I believe a lot of them are, but because they just don't want you doing it at work.
Yeah.
But like interview with a conscienceless 6-year-old girl with an abuse-afflicted attachment disorder who admits openly and without remorse to torturing animals and her baby brother, hoarding knives and other weapons, plotting to murder her entire family, and getting her only joy from hurting people.
A 6-year-old.
6.
Yeah, that's
6.
That's scary.
And yeah, it's really, really kind of creepy. And I was going through it and I was like, oh my God, should I click on that? Remember I showed it to you? Like, I don't even want to look at it. That's really scary. Okay, I'm giving you guys a warning. This picture scares the piss out of me. Ready?
Yep.
Look at that, guys.
Yeah, that's creepy. The eyes.
I know.
The
I
eyes.
don't even like, ugh.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's stuff
It's
like
intense.
this. So if you're into it, you know, go check this out. Although, you know what? I'll give you some honorable mentions because I did have a couple more here that I did want to use, but you know what? It's a lot of reading, and I didn't want to sit here on this thing and read like a page-long thing, but a really good creepy subreddit is No Sleep. Also, Unresolved Mysteries and Let's Not Meet are all really, really good. I was almost going to put them here, and at the last minute, I was like, you know what? I just don't want to sit here and read
just reading,
like a 5-minute story to you guys, you know? And they're all really, really good. But this one, if you just want to go like a quick, like boom, 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 this is a good one, but it's really, really spooky. I don't think I'm even subscribed. Yeah, look, I'm not even subscribed to it. I just don't want anything to do with it. Like, I'm going to leave this subreddit and I'm never going to come back because it's really, really freaky. I went through it for a little bit and just like, oh God, I would like to go to sleep tonight.
There you go. Happy Halloween.
Okay, we wanted to get your guys' temperature on this whole situation because this whole week there's been bomb scares going on in the United States, and politics are really, really ugly right now. Everybody's really aggressive. There's a lot of pointing fingers going on, and really at the heart of all of this is an issue that we really don't know where to settle. But I'll use this to segue. So this week, there's a town around here called Lumberton. And this mom here has 2 mixed race daughters. Her ex-husband, I believe, was black. So she gets, this is last week, she gets a Facebook message from a man from Kentucky who threatens her and says, you know, you need to stick with your own race. Your children are horrible.
This is a stranger too. This isn't somebody she knows.
Yeah. And she's like, what the heck? So she goes to the guy's Facebook page, clicks on it, and she sees that he has all kinds of pictures on his profile with automatic weapons. So she's like, you know what? I don't like it. I don't have a good feeling about it. So she calls the police, her local police in Lumberton, New Jersey. And I'm guessing from what she's saying that they didn't do much. She said she was disappointed with their reaction. So she is on the guy's page, and he has his town where he's from. So she called his town police and said, hey, I'm from New Jersey. There's this guy. He's threatening me and my girls. You know, I didn't do anything to him. He seems like he could be dangerous or whatever. So the police say, okay, we'll go check him out in the morning. So they go to his house in the morning, and they catch him pulling out of his driveway. So they confront him, and it turns out that his car is full of automatic weapons and ammo, and he was on his way to shoot up 2 high schools. So she stopped two school shootings by just alerting the police to this guy.
Yeah,
and
just kind of with this like trollish behavior, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And just kind of saying
On
hateful
social media.
things, you know, just like racist stuff and whatnot. And a lot of people are really emboldened right now to kind of say this stuff. But she said something, and you know what's so sad about this? That the news is interviewing the 2 girls, and they're saying how they're not surprised.
Ugh.
And is that not heartbreaking?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you know, that's how it is today or whatever. And the mom burst into tears. She was
That's
like,
sad.
I feel that's so sad.
It wasn't always this way.
But
it was not always this way.
So it says she averted shootings in 2 Kentucky schools. They said one of the schools he wanted to shoot up was a high school that he had gone to that he left. I don't know why he left or whatever, but he wanted, I think he's 20 years old. He just wanted to go, you know, he went to go shoot up the school, and they stopped, I can't believe, pulling out of his driveway. He was on his way over there. He had like, I think, written letters and things like that. Like,
yeah, they looked into his house, right? He had written like his plans down and everything like that, what he was going to do. Like he had like a
But what brings
manifesto
me
of sorts.
to today, there were all of these pipe bombs being sent to people who are critical of the president. And I believe at the time that we're reporting, at the time we're talking about this,
we're just hanging out.
just reporting. Yeah. At the time we're talking about this, I think they're up to 13.
Yeah.
And they were finding all these different pipe bombs, but it's all starting to come out that this guy was all over social media and he was making threats. And I saw that somebody reported him to Twitter because he was saying like, you know, like look behind your back tonight or something, like you're never alone, or like just all that kind of creepy stuff. And they reported him to Twitter, and Twitter said that this doesn't violate the guidelines.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's got to stay active, but there was his social media was really kind of horrific and kind of like, well, duh, this guy. And he had made a bomb threat, I think previously or whatever. And it was really like scary, you know, like none of them were detonated. It would have been one of the worst, probably the worst domestic terrorism, domestic terrorism event.
I believe it would.
It would have killed 2 ex-presidents.
Yeah.
If they worked.
If they worked, yeah.
And but what my question?
I don't know if they worked. I think I'm pretty sure they were operational. They just were
they
caught.
Operational? Yeah.
I think before, because they were loaded with glass, right? Weren't they?
That's right.
Glass shards. I think they were IEDs that he sent out. So.
Oh yeah, so he was. That's what I was wondering. Okay, transporting explosives across state lines, illegally mailing explosives, threatening former presidents and others, threatening interstate communications, assaulting federal officials. So my question is, when do you report? And if you don't get an adequate answer that you're satisfied with, what do? What can you do? You know, because like this guy was reported to Twitter. Like I'm thinking, I used that mother in Lumberton. I mean, it's amazing that she was able to stop that, you know? And I'm thinking how many other things could have been stopped.
Yeah.
And you know, you said something interesting. We were talking about it earlier, and you said like, maybe they just need to ban them off Twitter. You know, if Twitter is like, you don't have a problem with.
Yeah,
like, what do you think?
The thing I'm thinking is obviously like when you take it seriously and when you not take it seriously.
Yeah,
what's the option? Because like so many people say stuff like this all the time on social media, and do you just basically ban them all? Like just go total zero tolerance. Like just don't say stuff like that. We don't allow you to say stuff like that on our service. And if you do, whatever, because they're not arbiters of free speech.
Yeah.
They're not government entities.
Right.
You know, so the First Amendment is just not coming into place here. But I think it'd still be, I don't think you can really do that reasonably. And I think if you did do that, there's just going to be another social media platform that doesn't do it that'll pop up and become more popular.
Right.
This makes me wonder, maybe there's already something like this in like the FBI or something like that. But I almost wonder if there needs to be some sort of like social media, I don't want to say like task force or like social media, like this legal team, right?
Yeah.
That maybe you don't report to Twitter, you report to them, and they kind of see all of it
as like a government entity.
As like a government entity that would then look into like
it's not a bad idea.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and
people wouldn't like that. People would think that was a violation.
Yeah, but come on. We're looking at 13 bombs were just sent out. Like, this is going to be a really important conduit to figuring these things out forever going forward now.
Right.
Okay? There's something is going to have to come into place that's going to be able to watch over some of it. I mean, it's got to be limited in scope, of course, but like, complaining about that is like complaining about that there are police stations and there are cops on the streets.
Yeah.
Because that's basically cops on the streets. That's what we're saying.
I saw somebody say like one guy tried to get on a plane with a shoe bomb in the 90s, and now we're all taking our shoes off on planes and all kinds of things, you know. And even before 9/11, everybody taking their shoes off and all kinds of stuff. So there have been other situations where one person has
completely
changed it for everybody.
Changed culture
for everybody. Yeah.
But like social media is just too important now as a primary method of communication that everybody is in on. So I feel like again, just like you need a cop on the street to make sure that if somebody's doing something, they can stop it. You kind of need cops on the streets here too. I kind of feel like that.
Like we're getting to that point.
You have to be afraid of how far that reach becomes and how much the influence is in there, because that's definitely a concern, right? But now we're talking about people whose lives are regularly being threatened. How many times have we seen over these shootings and anything like this over the last several years after it happened, and there was evidence all over social media? You know? So there's got to be some way of monitoring this, at least when there's a report that's turned out to be a credible report that they can investigate. I imagine that right now that role is to the FBI.
Yeah, probably.
To investigate that sort of thing. But like, how does it even get there? Like, I know I guess the avenue as it is right now, you report to local authorities who then escalate it if necessary.
But what if they don't do anything?
Well, that's the case with everything beyond internet too.
Like this mother and her local police who did nothing, and she decided to take it a step further and call his police.
Well, that's another interesting question too, because then you're talking jurisdiction.
Yeah.
She was being harassed by someone from Kentucky. What was her local police going to do?
Yeah.
They can't go to their house.
Yeah.
They can't do that. So that she had to really call the Kentucky police about it. Wow. But like, is that really a logical point of method to go to?
Maybe not everybody would have made the connection to do that.
It feels like there is definitely this wide open gap right now for how to handle these situations.
Right.
And I don't know if it is like cops on social media or anything like that, you know, but I feel like there's got to be some sort of method for enforcement, or at least monitoring or reporting and escalating a situation like this. There's got to be something like, I don't know. It's
Well, what worries me about it also is I'm worried that it will almost kind of take on like a war on drugs type of thing. Where they'll say, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't bully. Just don't. And don't get me wrong, the anti-bullying campaigns, the anti-trolling campaigns are necessary, and kids need to be brought up knowing to not do this.
Yeah, that's a slow fix.
But don't, it's a slow fix.
Yeah.
It's a generational fix, maybe at best. But there will always be bullies. There's always going to be dicks, you know, and there's really not much you can do about that.
You can't get rid of the reasons that they exist. That's the problem. So there's always going to be environmental situations that create bullies, right? And that's kind of the main problem, and you're not going to get rid of that.
Right. So there's got to be a system in place to just control them as they pop up, like you said, you know. But a lot of people are just like, well, easy, just don't do it, just don't bully, just don't.
That's never an answer.
Okay,
that doesn't. That's equivalent to saying nothing. Yeah, you know,
it's more like how to handle them and you know what to do with, because you could say. It's like the don't feed the trolls, you know? If I were her and I got a message like that on Facebook, I would go like, yo, and I'd probably write back, F you, and block them. Yeah. And that would be it. It wouldn't occur to me to call the police. Because I would think, well, what would they do? Yeah. You know, and now I'm thinking maybe I should say something. Maybe I should report if I see something like that. But then the other side of me goes, do I want to upend somebody's life? But if I went digging in his social media and saw a pattern, I think I'd be more likely to say something.
Yeah, if there's a pattern, that's when it really becomes, the case becomes stronger to say something, right? And and if you see threats, and you see like maybe potentially credible threats,
right? And guns, you know, taking pictures of assault weapons.
Yeah, there's a point where you're like 2 + 2 = 4. Like things are starting to add up a little bit to maybe this person's going to be a problem, especially for what we see right now. Right. But I don't know, like social media right now is just totally the Wild West, and because social media is real life, it is now. It's you know, we can say IRL all we want. That is life. So freaking, we are in the Wild West with the way these situations are coming up right now.
Right.
Nobody knows how to handle them.
Yeah,
and
people
everybody I think thinks something needs to be done, but what the hell do you do? Where do you even start?
I know.
It's
and
crazy.
Then they're finding each other. They're finding like-minded individuals.
Yeah,
and
the internet.
They're becoming emboldened. Yeah. And they're like becoming like strong. You know?
If you get like one person in one town that's like this, and you think like, wow, there's thousands of people in that town. What's one person? But there's thousands of towns. So if you get one person in each of them, and they have the internet, and they find each other, then you have thousands of people that are unhinged potentially, and that all get in, and all amplify each other's voices.
Like this
and
guy,
stuff like this happens because then you like, you know, as long as you say it's okay to say those things and to act these ways and to think these things, eventually some people are going to act on this stuff. You know, it's a cultural problem.
Like you've said, I remember you've said a bunch of times in a bunch of different things, like there's freedom of speech, but not freedom of the consequences to what you're saying.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not being quoted as saying that. I've seen other people put that really, really well. But that's, you know, freedom of speech extends to a court of law, right? Are you being put in jail for saying something? And even that has limitations because you can't make death threats. You can't go to jail for death threats.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you can go around and say whatever you want. There's not going to be any consequences.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's never been the case. It's never going to be the case. But I don't know. I just have no idea how to approach it.
This
is crazy.
What do you guys think?
I feel I totally get a loss here.
Yeah. Like, what do you guys think? Is there a solution? Like, should we be a little bit more trigger happy with the reporting? Should we be less? Should we just kind of ignore them, leave them alone? I'm at a point with trolls and you know, like we have them with the channel and whatnot. I've stopped looking to we have like this horrible like catch-all folder of all the people who say nasty things. Like, what is that? And I've looked a couple times and I'm always like, oh. So like, I don't go in there. I don't need that on my brain. I don't need that on my conscience. Yeah. But still, like, is ignoring them good enough anymore? Do we have a responsibility
I still think ignoring them is the way it goes. Because I feel like the vast majority of the time, I mean, there's these situations, but we hear about every single one of these, which means in the grand scheme, it's a very tiny percentage, right? It's significant enough by the threat to take seriously. But the vast majority of the time, it's a classic situation of they just want attention, they want to rise out of you, and if you respond in kind, they got it. Cool.
Yeah. Although, you know, like I was looking at, it was reported a whole bunch of his social media posts and they're doozies. And a lot of them saying, you know, like so-and-so needs to be killed. Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden all need to be assassinated, killed. Is that the same as making a death threat?
I mean,
if he's tweeting it or putting it on Facebook, is that the same as me saying to you, somebody needs to kill so-and-so or whatever, and do you have a right to call?
Yeah, I think it should.
Is that like a similar equivalent? Like, is that equivalent?
I think you should think of it as if somebody was saying it out loud to you. I think it should be.
To me, there's a disconnect.
I don't think there should be a disconnect.
Yeah,
no, and that's one of the major problems with this whole trolling on social media thing to begin with.
Right.
People are saying things that they would not say to somebody to their face.
Right.
If they had the chance to talk to them directly, they wouldn't say it.
Some people would. They'd be like, I say it to
some
their
people
face.
would, but most people wouldn't. There's a lot of people that just feel the anonymity it gives you is emboldening, right?
Yeah.
Because if you had to say it to their face, you'd have to see their face change into hurt, and nobody actually wants to see the hurt. Everybody wants to say what they say and not have to see what happens afterwards.
Right. Just send it out.
They just want to be like, I just want to send it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a cultural problem. I think people in general have to treat the way they communicate on social media the same way they would speak to someone if they were sitting down right next to them, they were having a conversation with them.
Yeah, that's
and
so true.
I think we have to hold standards like that to the same way. If somebody's saying stuff like this, we need to treat it as if they're saying it out loud on the street to somebody, and treat it the same way.
Yeah.
If somebody's making a threat on somebody's life, it doesn't matter if they said it out loud or they typed it out on Twitter or Facebook. I think it's the same thing.
Right.
So, and I hope that it gets treated that way, culturally and legally. I think it has to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Bad.
It's such a rapidly changing environment.
Because it does happen, like you said. Yeah, it does happen, like you said. There's so many people that say, like, oh, this guy threatened me. This guy threatened me. He said this.
There's always a pattern.
There was so much like evidence, about this guy in particular. They were like, oh yeah, like I knew him. Like he was nuts. He did all this stuff, and had all this propaganda and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know, and I know there's so many more people like him. That's what I find so scary.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. But what do you guys think? I'm at a loss of how to handle it.
Yeah, let's know in the comments your thoughts on this subject. It's a crazy one.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm curious to know what you think. I'm genuinely curious.
Please.
And if you want to read these articles or anything we talked about today, all those are linked in the description.
Yes.
All right, guys. So
Hold on,
wait.
I did not back here. Hold on.
Okay. I had to wait for the screen to change.
I did. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so that's the end of the BS on the internet for this week.
Oh my God,
I have a feeling I heard there's a forecast of another week coming up. So next week we're gonna have another episode.
Oh my gosh, and it's Halloween next week.
Halloween.
So we got the Halloween stream.
Yes.
We got all kinds of. We didn't stream this week because we were catching up on Tomb Raider.
Yes.
So we're starting Red Dead. Oh my God.
Yes.
I'm excited. And then we're back to our regular streaming schedule, and we had a lot of grinding to do with Tomb Raider to make sure that we caught up in time.
We were done by Red Dead.
Tomb
Yes.
Raider was so good.
Tomb Raider was great.
So
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We did finish it, so the rest of the episodes are going to be up shortly.
Yeah, they'll overlap, I think.
Yeah, we're going to overlap a little beginning of Red Dead and Tomb Raider, but now we get to embark on our Red Dead journey, and then we'll still be playing Spider-Man on Twitch. So we're doing that in the coming weekends until that one's finished. All right, guys.
Oh,
if you like this video, please support us on Patreon. Click like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.